Hello, gentles and ladymen. I'm Ulan Gaming, and I'm doing this little video to just give a short summary of every single civilization explained in just a couple of words. Now, this is a video that is to kind of be paired with my ongoing series of civilization overviews, which I have been working on slowly, very, very slowly for almost half a year now. But this is going to be a shorter video that can almost act as a table of contents of sorts. You'll get an understanding of a civilization's unique mechanics, their overall strengths and weaknesses given to you in a few sentences, and then we'll move on, and if you find a civ that you're interested in, then you can, of course, look up my overview video for a more in-depth coverage of that civilization's mechanics. So with that, let's bring it in. Let's get this started. We'll start with European civs. European civs are the most fundamentally simple of all the civ types. They're the first civs to come out for the most part, and they get a flat bonus depending on the politician you use with every age. So they have the most normal age-up mechanics. You just pick the politician and get the bonus it says. And the politicians are always different in every age. Their biggest selling point is that the factories they get in Age 4, which are undeniably the best economic buildings in the game. The Euro civilizations include the British, whose unique mechanic is that they get a free settler every time they construct a house. A very solid civilization, always have been, always will be. Strengths is that they have strong musketeers, cavalry, and artillery. Their weakness, they don't really have many outstanding weaknesses. They have above average units in just about every department and are a really solid civ, but I will say that they heavily favor their musketeers a lot of the time, so making skirmishers is often problematic for Brits. Spain's unique mechanic is that they require 30%-ish less XP to earn their shipments. For newer players, earning XP is how you get shipments. Their bonus leans into the unique shipment mechanic of Age of Empires 3 itself, which is pretty cool. So they just get shipments faster than everybody else, is what it is. Strength is that they have like a billion different units, and they're all upgradable, and their weakness is that none of those units are the best in the game. Spain's strength is its versatility, not its ability to span one broken unit. All units are good, none are OB. France's unique mechanic is that your villagers are just better than everyone else's. They gather faster, have more HP, and do more damage. Strength is that they're pretty much the same as Spain, really. Huge unit roster with lots of upgrades. They have super good cavalry units as well in the form of the cuirassier. Weakness is that the French unit upgrades are not as universal as Spain's, and are more unit-specific. Spain can kind of just swap its whole unit composition on a dime because everything upgrades from the same upgrade cards, and France can pivot quickly, but not quite as quickly. In exchange, they have really, really good cav, though. Germany's unique mechanic is that they get free cavalry added to every shipment. Shipments also cost a little bit more XP, though. The strength of Germany is their tempo. They will always be aggressive, always have units on the field at all points in the game. The weakness of theirs is that their units are not super upgradable, and many fall off by the very, very late game. Also, they don't have a musketeer unit. Dutch unique mechanics is that their villagers cost coin instead of food, and they can build banks, which are buildings that generate coin infinitely by themselves. Strengths is that they have great eco and really good skirmishers and dragoons, which combo together for a really good unit composition. The weakness is that they have no musketeers, kind of like Germany. So skirm goon is like all they got. So figure out how to deal with that, and you've won. Ottomans. Unique mechanic is that villagers are free and trained by themselves without you having to input it, but it's a little slower. Strengths is that their unit roster is full of really good units. They all either have really high HP or really high damage. One of the two. Weakness is that Otto is a one-trick pony, and their unit roster is rather restricted, and they can be predictable. There isn't too much variety in Ottoman's unit roster at all, pretty much. Portugal. Their unique mechanic is that they get a free town center with every age-up. Strengths are their economy. They get lots of TCs, so they get lots of villagers. They get lots of upgrades for their military, so they got good military too. They have lots of upgrades for their economy too. They have really good mills. Weakness is their early game. All their best stuff is locked behind age 3, and keeping them in age 2 can be a death sentence. Russia. Unique mechanic are block training. So other civs train units one at a time in batches up to 5. Russia always gets a full batch every time, but cannot train one at a time at all. In exchange, their units are also cheaper and a little weaker. But this mechanic also applies to villagers. They train them 3 at a time instead of 1 at a time. But they always train musketeers 5 at a time, always train halberdiers 5 at a time. They train strelets 10 at a time, though, so that's kind of cool. Strength is their ability to just swarm and rush because they train really quickly. Weakness is that their individual units have poor stats, and they're very quantity over quality. Sweden. Sweden's unique mechanic is their houses collect treasures from sources nearby, nearby them, like extra villagers. Strengths are the fact that Karolians are completely busted beyond belief late game. Weakness is that Karolians suck in the early game and lose against most things. Karolians are kind of their only kind of really big unit that they have, and they're kind of weak in the early game. They lose to just about everything. They lose against skirmishers, they lose against musketeers. They lose against Hussar if you don't have very many Karolians. When you start to mass a lot of them, then Hussar become a non-issue. Even more so than other musketeers, but yeah. Italy. Italy's unique mechanic is that they get a free villager with every tech researched, just like hunting dogs from the market or gaslighting from the church. And Lombards are a special ability they have that turn invested resources into other resources over time. Strength is their powerful specialty units. They have some really powerful, unique specialty units. Weakness is that you're very limited in how many of those you can get because they train extremely slowly and take up your shipment pool. And their normal units outside of their specialty ones are very unspecial. They're just basically normal units with maybe 1 upgrade. Malta is the last of the European civilizations. Malta's unique mechanic is that every shipment comes with a 2% HP bonus to most of your units. So your explorer starts with 500 XP. Every time you send a card, he gets 10 more. It's pretty great. Your villagers also gain benefit from this, as well as most of your unit roster. They also can train a lot of unique units from other European civilizations. Strength is high unit quality and potential diversity of their roster. Weakness is that most of their units cost more than 1 population, and they require lots of houses to maintain an army. Alright, so that covers it for all the European civs. Let's go over the American civs. There's only 2 of these, and they share a similar overall structure to European civs, which is why I want to go over them first. But they play very differently. Instead of aging using politicians that provide flat bonuses like 8 musketeers, they age with what are called federal states, which provide smaller bonuses like 5 musketeers, but add special shipments to your deck that are unique to the state you age with, and these are called federal cards. So if you age with Virginia, you get the Virginia cards added to your deck, your shipment deck. Alright, so the American civilizations include USA. Their unique mechanic is gaining XP crates with every age up, and the ability to repeatedly call Minutemen from town centers. It's on a cooldown, and Minutemen only lose half their HP, and not all of it like militiamen, which is what every other civilization gets, essentially. USA also has much better federal cards than Mexico, and are more based off around it as a mechanic than Mexico. Mexico is the other American civ, by the way. But strengths for USA are very high-quality military and a good enough economy to keep up with it. Weakness to USA is their anti-cavalry. They're all either really good but not massable, or massable but really shit at their job. It's not an issue usually, but if your enemy is France and decides to spam only the super tanky cavalry they get, there's not often a lot you can do. Mexico. Mexico gets to revolt from the Second Age onwards, and can revert back to being Mexico. No civ in the game is as batshit crazy as Mexico. With the revolt mechanics, they get a billion different cards to play with. Every match that do a billion different things. Strength is that nobody can predict what Mexico's build order will be. The weakness is that they're so batshit nonsensical that often applies to the Mexico player himself, where he won't really know what his next move is and just makes shit up as he goes. Alright, so that covers the European and the American. Now we can cover the Native American civs. The rest of these civs, and this will mark a point where the rest of these civilization types will be a sizable departure from the standard European format. And that starts with the native civs. Natives do not get factories like Euro civs, and have slightly weaker late-game economies because of it, for the most part. In the late game, they require heavy micro and reliance on their extremely high-quality units to make up for their lack of resources. What they lack in economy, they make up for in spades with unit quality. As unique mechanics for all natives, as for unique mechanics that are universal across all natives, they get to see where all the trade posts on the map are from the beginning, and have a unique building called the Community Plaza, where you can task villagers or healers to work, providing you with special auras, trickles, and effects that are stronger the more settlers you have on them. There's a balance between how many settlers you want on the plaza versus how many you want on resources, and this somewhat contributes to the natives' overall weaker economy, and definitely contributes to their overall stronger units. Additionally, you have extremely powerful explorers called war chiefs, which are strong enough to fight with your troops or just even on their own, and provide them special auras, and provide the rest of your military special auras. Their age-up mechanic is unique too. They get 5 total politicians to choose from over the course of the entire game, and each one can only be picked once per game. But each politician, which is called a council member for them, scales with every age. For example, aging to 2 with the wise woman gives you a farm, but aging to age 5 with the wise woman might give you 2 farms and a 20% gather boost to all farms. The native civs include Haudenosaunee. This is the closest of all natives to being European. Their unique mechanic is that they get builder trapwalls, which can build almost any Haud building once for free, and they can generate them at a pretty okay rate too. Their explorer boosts the max HP of all friendly units around him by 10%. Strength is their aggression. Hauds are very, very fast and can be in your base extremely quickly, and they can keep the pressure up all game. Weakness is, like most natives, is their economy, though this will seemingly be a much smaller issue after the next update and allow them to boom more boom options. But yeah, Haudenosaunee's strength is their aggression, weakness is their economy. This is going to be true for a lot of the native civs. Lakota. Unique mechanic is that they start out with max population at 200 and never have to build a single house. Their war chief boosts movement speed by 10%. So you can just make your entire army like lightning quick. They can also build teepees, which are small buildings that provide various boosts to units around them. Strengths are their cavalry, among the best in the game, in fact. Weakness is their economy, which can crumble if caught by a bad raid too early. Inca. Unique mechanic is that their houses generate food trickle, so they're called concha houses. Their Explorer bonus boosts HP and attack of units around him, but only units from native settlements on the map instead of Inca units. So he can't buff his own units. He can only buff, like, natives. Strength is their economy, but weakness is many of their military units are not as good as their European counterparts. Inca is the opposite of all other native civs, where it's not the quality of their units that's scary, but the quantity. They're kind of like if Russia was a native civ. They just kind of swarm you with a lot of subpar units. They have like one good unit, and the rest of them are kind of questionable, but still usable, you know. Aztec is the last of the 4 native civs. Native American civs. Their unique mechanic is the Warrior Priest, a healer that costs 0 population and provides 2 settlers worth of work rate at the Community Plaza. Their War Chief aura doubles XP gained from killing enemies and buildings, and triples it after an upgrade. Aztec have the strongest plaza of all the native civs, and are extremely reliant upon it as a mechanic. They also have very good farms and estates. Strength is a quality military unit in every age, and they have a pretty good economy as well, as far as native civs go. Their weakness is skirmishers, as they lack even a single unit with multipliers against them, and are the only civilization in the game to have this. Alright, so that finishes up the Native American civs. Next we will go over the Asian civs. There are 3 of these. The Asian civs are the most unique civs by far. Instead of politicians or federal states or council members, they age up by constructing wonders with their settlers, so you age with your settlers instead of your town center. And the more settlers build it, the faster they age. Wonders are buildings that provide powerful abilities and bonuses, but can be burned down and destroyed by opponents and cannot be rebuilt, thus losing the bonuses forever. They can also build consulates, allowing them to spend a special resource that only they collect on upgrades and units from normal European civs. The Asian civilizations include India, whose unique mechanic is that villagers cost wood instead of food, and they get a free villager with every shipment. Shipments cost a little bit more XP. They can't gather from cattle, but instead, cattle provides XP trickles. Strengths include an insanely powerful late-game economy and strong-ish military in every age. Weakness is their economy is difficult to get started due to the extremely high wood cost. India has a high bar for entry when it comes to skill. China's unique mechanic is that your military trains in small armies of 4 to 6 units, separated into 2 units. For example, it's kind of similar to Russia in that you train with full batches, but it's a little different. Whereas Russia, you would train a full batch of 5 musketeers. With China, you might instead train the Old Han Army, which trains 3 pikemen and 3 crossbows simultaneously. China has the most amount of different units of any civilization, and most of them are extremely situational and only counter one kind of unit, and none of them are musketeers. However, it doesn't really matter because they're just kind of swarm you, and then it all works out. Similar to Inca and Russia, just better. China is one of the best civs in the game. Strengths are everything. They have powerful economy, they have powerful economy, they have powerful units, they have a powerful military in every age, they have lots of upgrades for their cards. Their weakness is that they are a little slow to take off, and that they don't have a high-quality cavalry counter. And if you spam nothing but heavy cavalry, it can be difficult for a China player to deal with. Japan. Japan's unique mechanic is that their houses generate resources, and they generate more resources the more huntable animals there are around them. In exchange, Japan cannot hunt and can only gather food from berry bushes. Strengths are a powerhouse of an economy and the most hilariously upgradable units you've ever seen. Every Japan unit is a monster on the battlefield and has like 6 possible cards / auras to upgrade them. They can also train in batches of 10, and they can send shipments to special cavalry units, so they can just ride at full speed with cavalry through your base and then drop a whole bunch of artillery there. Weakness is, well, it's no, that's not it. Their weakness is no, that's not it either. Their weakness is I know what it. No, that's not a weakness either. They don't have a weakness. They don't have a weakness. They just aren't the strongest civ in the game. But they're just overall good in every age. They're not the strongest, but they just have no weaknesses. Alright, African civs. Now, this is the last type of civilization. So, the African civs are weird. They age up with alliances, which provide unique upgrades and techs and units that can be researched at the cost of influence, a special resource that only they can gather. They also have a livestock trading system where they can trade cows for wooden coin. It's very weird, but really cool, for sure, but also weird. Influence is trickled from cows and livestock, especially fully fattened ones. African civs include Hausa, whose unique mechanic is that they get a free cattle with every shipment. Shipments cost a little bit more XP, though. They can also earn influence by building universities, A building with unique texts that trickle more influence, the more specific the more buildings are around it, and these are specific buildings that you need to be around it. House's strength is its late game. It's got a high skill cap and is focused on base building. The longer the game goes and the more infrastructure House gets, the stronger they become and the harder it is to push into them. Their weakness is their early game. While good, it's not the strongest and can sometimes leave them vulnerable if House of players aren't ready to come right out of the gate swinging. Ethiopia's unique mechanic is that they can use healers to heal units that are in combat, and they can build mountain monasteries, which are placed on coin mines and cannot be gathered from by enemies. They can be gathered by you to get influence with your coin, however. Ethiopia is more geared towards the early game, not having as many economic mechanics as Hausa, and an easier time collecting influence early on, but a harder time collecting it later on once all the coin mines have gone out. The opposite of Hausa, its strength is its early game and rush potential, and its weakness is its late game. So that is every civilization covered in just a couple of sentences, but don't go just yet, because what I would like to talk about now is the civilizations that I would recommend that you start out with. If you are a brand new player coming to the game, I would highly recommend Spain, France, or Germany as your first civilization, as none of their mechanics are outstanding or crazy unique and complex, and they will allow you to get a solid skill foundation before switching to other civs. In fact, the only way that you can win with these civilizations is by having a good skill foundation, because they have no other weird mechanics to rely upon. So these civilizations of Spain, France, and Germany are going to be the absolute best to learn the game in a decent amount of time. There are a lot of civs that are difficult to learn and would not be great for a new player, but there is one civ that I would recommend that a new player just avoids under any circumstances, and that is Ottoman. As stated a little bit earlier in my video, Ottomans don't train villagers, and they just slowly automatically generate them without you having to click on them. But learning the muscle memory to always be making villagers with your hotkeys is a vitally important skill in this game, and playing Ottomans before you have that skill will stunt your growth as a player. So if you want to play Ottomans and you're a brand new player and you want to only play Ottomans and never experiment with any other civs, sure, play Ottomans. But if you want to experiment around with the over 20 civilizations that this game has to offer, they would be one of the last that I would try out, because your muscle memory for making villagers hasn't come in yet as a brand new player. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you found a civilization that you find interesting and would like to learn more about, please do check out my civilization overview playlist on my channel, and have fun just listening about the more in-depth mechanics for the civilization. Thank you guys very much for watching. Have a great day, and goodbye.
Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. This was, as ever, a ton of fun to make. If you enjoyed the video, please do consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out, and have a great day.